last year? Quite a
Yeah,
few
there was quite a few, and the year before that there was quite a few. You know, we're fortunate. People, a lot of people get to see them. They get to share the experience, which in most circumstances you think that would drive them away. Actually, the population seem to be growing. More and more are coming here. They're not nesting here, of course. I told you they're juveniles, but more and more are coming here because of the availability of food and no competition. So here we are, hosting a beautiful animal that seems to be coming more and more every year. We're seeing more and more of them.
Now, is that because the other owls don't compete for that particular food? In other words,
well, actually they do, and in fact, other owls do. But they tend to stick towards their habitat, which is deciduous woods and areas that are more wooded areas like Northwest woods, and and it doesn't have to be a large wooded area. They will habitate smaller. As long as the trees are accommodating, they'll habitate it. And any of the trees on Main Street. Oh, I just renested a little baby Screech Owl, no bigger than my fist, on one of those huge trees on Main Street in the village of East Hampton.
Wow.
Sitting right on the base, shivering in the rain, and we were able to get it back to the
Had
nest.
a cavity?
I'm sorry?
Did it have a cavity, you mean, the tree? Do they need a cavity?
Yes, in fact they did, and that's where this one came from. We didn't actually find it, but that's common as well. They're not always visible. They are sometimes, but not always. And when they're not, what we do is we literally put them in a box, and they're quite capable of climbing the full length of the tree, because they do it using their talons, which are fully formed at this point. It's almost the biggest feature on them. So they can literally climb, and even if they can't fly, the wings help them keep the balance to get up a tree. However, that's not what happens. What happens is Mama will come down and get them, and she'll take them. She'll then walk them back up the tree. So it actually does walk up in the tree, but usually not by itself. Usually it's escorted with Mom. Yep. My little girl is sitting on my knee. Look at her.
I love the Cornell cams where the owls just fledged this past week.
Oh, really? I didn't see it.
Yeah, there was 3 of them. Were really cute.
Hold on, sweetie. Hold on. She knows I've got them, so I got to get up and get some. Hold on. Hold on, sweetie pie. Now I got to go get more. All right. No, one at a time. One at a time, because she'll go bury them. Is what she'll do. She'll bury a whole bag of these things, and then it gets kind of ridiculous because she doesn't come back for them. Squirrels are like the best gardeners. They plant our forests. They plant our forests. So they do that with my peanuts. However, I'm not growing peanuts, unfortunately, so I have to keep buying them.
Exactly.
Even though they keep burying them. I'm waiting for the plants to start springing up so I don't have to keep buying them, but it doesn't seem to be happening.
Wrong climate.
Go figure. What do you say, Tina? Look at the camera, not me. She's so shy. Look at her. She turns her head like that. It's partly because of the accident, but mostly it's just She doesn't do it all the time. She can stop it, but she tends to do it a lot. I thought it was something to do with her accident, but sometimes I don't think that's the case. I don't know.
How long have you had her?
Just over a year. Just over a year. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm not, how will I know when everyone's here?
Everyone's here. We
What-
did a soft intro. Jacqueline, yes, thank you. This is a good intro. We could probably use
Yeah,
this moment.
sure. I figured we were rolling.
Dell, and we are rolling, but we could do a nice plug for your organization.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
You can go ahead. You want? All right.
Yeah. Don't bother. Let me introduce myself if nobody minds. Of course, I'm Dell Cullum. I have Hampton Wildlife here locally in East Hampton, and I also started this past year a nonprofit 501c3 organization for wildlife rescue. And we have a wildlife rescue organization here locally in East Hampton, serving Montauk to Wayne-Scott. And if we go a little farther, if an animal needs us, we do it. And that's for rescue. We also do a lot of education, which is what we're kind of doing here today. Or we can categorize this as just sitting around talking about wildlife and having fun. But everything is good knowledge, and that's important when you're dealing with wildlife, because a lot of times lack of education about a species can give you a whole different outlook on them. So hopefully I can prove to you that it's all awesome. So with that said, the website is our name is Wildlife Rescue of East Hampton. Our website is WROEH.org. And we also, let me see, our phone number. The phone number is important because that's the number you'll call if you ever have an emergency or just a question. You can call the 844 number, the toll-free number, 844-SAVE-WILD. SAVE is S-A-V, and that translates to 728-9453. So you can call that 24/7, 365 days a year.
Wow. And are you authorized for bats?
Actually, I'm authorized for anything. However, I do not do anything that I can't do and the animal will stay alive. And there's a few animals that we haven't found 100% certainty ways of trapping them to relocate them without harming them. A flying squirrel is a great example because they're much smaller than a squirrel, but about the size of a large mouse or a rat, for example. They slip out of the smallest of have-a-hard traps. Even the ones that are made extra small for chipmunks, when they get caught in them, they panic and they begin to bash themselves back and forth in the cage. And because of they're such a fragile creature, they tend to knock themselves out and kill themselves. So there was a couple instances we were trying to figure out ways to not let that happen. And at one point I put a face towel in the trap, and that seemed to work for a little while, but then it stopped. So again, if I have to kill it to catch it, I don't do it.
So bats, what's
well,
the issue?
The thing with bats is different, because normally I would help. Look, if there's a bat flying in your house in the middle of the night, give me a call. I'll come help you. Don't get me wrong. But if you have bats in the belfry, for lack of a better term, but in your attic or behind your fascia boards or you know, whatever the case may be, actually right now the DEC is saying nobody touches bats, period. And that's very, very much partly, well, not partly, that's mostly due to the COVID-19 issue. as well as you have to be careful with bats. They don't allow them to. We can't touch them during the birthing season either, which is a lengthy period, and that is another no-no. Because of all these difficulties, and really the most successful way to take care of a bat problem is to do it at night. When they fly out at night and they're eating, that's when you want to be there to patch up the holes and the this and the that.
Right.
So because that's very hard to coordinate, that's why I don't, you know, I don't get involved, unfortunately. You know, it's just something I don't.
I had 2 little browns in my washroom, but we did the same thing, came in when they weren't there and then tried to seal up the house.
Right. Yeah, bats are very necessary to the ecology. I mean they eat an amazing amount of flying insects, and that's important. Without them, you would see the difference, particularly in your yard.
I wouldn't let anybody hurt them.
No. The state, believe it or not, of all the things that the state isn't so watchful over, bats are. So give them credit for that. Not our swans, not our deer, but the bats are still in the safe zone. So it's all good. Yeah. So anyway, I've actually got a few little critters to show everybody. If now is a good time to do that. I really can't see anybody but myself, and that's good at this point because I want to make sure you can see what I'm going to show you. Does anybody mind if I show you around to some of our local critters that we're kind of seeing this time of year?
That'd be fantastic.
Please do.
Okay.
That's why we're here.
Let's do it. Okay. I am on my phone. I thought it'd be good to do it this way. We could come outside and I'll show you a couple little guys. The first one I'm going to show you is a couple guys that I'm actually hoping, cross my fingers, to catch Mama tonight so I can release them. They've been with me for 2 days, and Mama has been just giving me slip after slip, but she's looking for her babies. And I'm hoping I'm going to get her tonight because they're eating me out of house and home. And that is our common raccoons. And here's a couple little babies I'm going to show it to you. And they're very scared, so I'm not going to handle them, that's for sure. They're very frightened, and that's the way I want them to be. Next time they see a human, I want them to be afraid. It's their best chance of survival. So let's take a look at these little guys. Okay? They don't leave each other's side. In fact, the one is sitting on top of the other, mostly to protect them. The siblings are very protective amongst themselves. And they're extremely, they have a very tight bond until they go on their own, actually, which isn't going to be until probably September, October, is when Mama would normally say, okay, it's time for you folks to go and be raccoons on your own. And until then, that's why it's so important I get them back to Mama, because to have a rehabber raise these guys would take an enormous amount of time and work, and you can't do it halfway. It's a full way job, and you know, for the benefit of the animal, you can't look at this one. Did everybody see him just yawn? They are the cutest things until they pop a hole in your attic and have babies. You know,
what is the usual brood number?
Well, they can have anywhere between 2 and 10 babies. In the 3 decades that I've been trapping, I've had 2 litters of 10 twice.
Wow.
Okay, twice in 30 years. The most common number is anywhere between 2 and 4. Yeah,
Okay.
starting to get
I had
more,
5.
starting to be up to 6 now. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
starting to get
I
to
had
be
5.
5 and 6 now. Yeah, and you know
Yeah.
why that is? When these animals start find a place where they find food quite easily accessible, well, then they eat good. And here, of course, we know, particularly during the summertime, we treat these animals to surf and turf almost every night during the summer out of the garbage cans at most of our restaurants. So with
Mm.
that being said, plus the reality of Montauk being a raccoon's world's largest sushi bar, these guys eat better than any raccoons in America. And with that being said, they have nice, big, healthy litters. So I really,
Oh.
really believe that has to do with the baby, the numbers of babies in the litter increasing over the
Mhm.
past couple of years. I really do. I find the garbage, the waste grew,
Mhm.
and so did the litter number size.
Well, that's like the deer too, where I've had triplets in a good year, and then maybe only one in a.
Well, let me tell you something about the deer that's pretty interesting, and you might not know this, but scientific fact. Deer, their biology, they're smart animals, and they're very tough animals. I mean, to be able to survive with all that we put on them here is quite amazing. So they can get through a lot, but the biology of the deer is so that when the habitat is plentiful, the deer the chemistry in their bodies will allow them to have larger litters.
Mhm.
Deer can have triplets. So there was a time when a normal litter would be 2 or 3, okay? But as they've lost their habitat and have been constrained and pushed in these small pockets out here on the East End,
Mhm.
their body chemistry has evolved to the habitat. And that has cut them down to not just the majority of twins, because most of them are single births. Okay,
Uh-huh.
maybe 10 years ago it was a lot of twins, but now it really has. Although I do see a lot of twins still, the majority that I see are
Mhm.
absolutely
Mm.
single births.
I did
Yeah.
have triple about 15 years ago. I think that's the only year I had 3.
Yeah, you don't see it that much anymore. I saw it at the nature trail. Oh, one day I was filming there. I was in my glory because I was able to have a camera on hand when I saw it. But the 3 fawns and the mama just splashed and played in the brook, and I sat there on the bridge,
Mhm.
and they knew I was there. It was just
Mhm.
one of the many magical moments I've had the extreme luck and pleasure to have captured on both film and camera. If you haven't seen it, I'll have to post it.
Post
But
it.
I call it the dancing deer of East Hampton because they were literally dancing and
Yeah.
hopping in the water.
Uh,
You've seen it.
I
It's
see them
amazing.
in the
Yeah,
backyard.
yeah.
Can I ask, how did these raccoon babies get separated from the mother? Did you just find them somewhere off alone? Or?
Well. No. In this case, they were in an attic, and I was hoping to catch Mama first. It didn't work out that way. Mama was smart. A lot of times some of these animals, particularly raccoons, um, uh, they get trapped by other trappers who really, I'm putting the phone here, who really just want to get rid of the animal. They have a full truck, need to get back to work, so they don't do what I do and hold them until Sunday. Every Sunday I'd go up to the Pine Barrens. I don't even want to get into that. I've been doing it for 10 years, and I can't tell you how many raccoons I've put in habitat where they belong. But Most people don't. That's not common practice. What common practice is to drive down to Napig Stretch in the middle where you can see nobody coming in either direction for 2 or 3 miles and unload your load of raccoons and critters on the side of the highway. So, you know, that's a common practice that's really causing our big raccoon problem out here. What I did is I was able to catch the babies first. Mama has been in a cage before, so she wasn't eager to get into one again. And this case, I had her on camera. I use cameras in all my trapping jobs so that when I trap the animal at 2 in the morning and we're fixing to have a storm roll through, I go get the animal off the roof, because that's not right either, to have an animal sit in the rain all night long with thunder and lightning. Doesn't make it any easier for me to take them off the roof the next morning. So, you know, we do what we can to do what's right. This case, Mama just looked at the baby on the camera. I watched her. She looked at the baby in the cage, the last one, and she turned away and walked out, and she hasn't been back in 2 days. I'm not giving up. I've had them do this before, so I'm giving it the appropriate time, and I still have hope. I think tonight's going to be a good night because I'm going to load that trap up with some fried chicken. And I have to, because I want these babies back with Mama. So, you know, that's not common practice either. I don't put stuff like that in a trap to catch animals. That tends to draw more animals into the area than you want, or it certainly ends up you catch an animal that isn't the animal you intended to catch in the first place. So I have a whole separate process I do when I do trapping, and that's why it's a bit of a, you know, it's a bit of a, it's my expertise. I've really learned a lot about it. I always anxious to learn more. Believe me, I'm one of those guys that never says I know it all, because I hope not, because I love learning so much. But
yeah, it's great. Now, is it less unusual
anyway,
to see?
Simone, let me show you something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, about the babies.
No, go ahead.
During the day, obviously you're supposed to sort of be leery of adults that come out in the middle of the day. But what about
not
babies?
necessarily. Not
What
necessarily.
About babies?
Well, again, that's not necessarily true. Again, you know, this is important. When you look up information on an animal, the worst place to do it is online, okay? Because you're getting a blanket of information. And when it comes to wildlife, you got to understand, particularly out here, that an animal acclimates to its surroundings and its habitat. So it's always changing. So the raccoon behavior here is completely different than the raccoon behavior up the island and the city and upstate. Completely different behaviors of the same animal because of the habitat they're forced to live in. Okay, again, here we have a plentiful amount of food, and it's not natural. It's mostly human garbage, but it's all good food, and they thrive on it. Besides that, there's plenty of natural food as well. So they're living the life of luxury out here. So anything you read about raccoons online absolutely doesn't apply to the raccoons here. Okay, and with that being said, when you see a raccoon walk across your yard during the daytime, you better understand that is probably the most normal and common thing that could happen. Our raccoons here are absolutely diurnal. Now, that's not to say they're not mostly active at night and that they will be out at night. They absolutely will. And they are most active as soon as the sun goes down. But that doesn't keep them from coming out during the daytime, particularly when you've got tree services, pest control, lawnmowers, tree trimmers, leaf blowers, construction workers, shall I go on? That would displace a rhinoceros, okay? And with that being said, that's what's usually the case when you see mama walking across your yard during the daytime. And here's another little tip for you folks so you'll understand this. But a lot of times you'll see mama walk across the yard and she'll look horrible. And I get that call, oh, it's rabid, there's rabies, there's a raccoon, he's sicker than heck, he walked across the yard, looks horrible. Well, it's usually a mama who just had, remember, between 2 and 10 babies. Now, I'm not a female and I'm not a mother, but I can't imagine that any female or mother that has 10 babies of anything is going to be looking really good when they're walking across the yard. Not to mention, after being suckled on all night long, mamas need a break, and they usually find it during the daytime. So it's very, very common to see a raccoon during the day. Now, one more quick thing. With that being said, a sick raccoon will be doing the following every time. Either walking in a circle, not always a small, could be a large circle, could be a small circle, okay? Dragging their back legs. A lot of people think they've been hit by cars. That's not the case. This is signs of distemper. We do not have rabies in raccoons here on the eastern end of Long Island. There hasn't been a case of rabies in Suffolk County in over 60 years. I don't even think there has been one here. That was in Queens. So we have what's called distemper. It's canine distemper, and it ravages the raccoon population. I've put down at least a dozen animals in the past 2 weeks from distemper. And they spread it amongst themselves. There's no cure. It's quick. Probably takes their life in within 3 days. Fortunately, science tells us not a raccoon. I'm not a raccoon, so I can't say this for sure. Science tells us this is neurological. It's painless. There is no suffering involved. I've seen these animals die from this a lot. Usually they fall asleep, they stop breathing. However, there's a period of seizures and walking around the neighborhood where they don't know where they are, scaring people and giving them the bad impression that most of us hear about. And that's unfortunate because, in fact, these animals are just sick and they're dying.
Can that be passed on to people, though? If they
very, very good question. I'm so happy you asked it because I really wanted to let you know that canine distemper is not contagious to human beings. However, as the name says, it is contagious and highly contagious to dogs. And I suggest that anybody who lives in East Hampton would certainly want to have their animals. Scooter, come on. Would certainly want to have their animals vaccinated for distemper. It's mandatory, I believe, in the state, just like rabies is. So if your dog has had rabies, I'm certain they've had distemper. If they haven't, get them. It really will take a lot of worry. Once they have the distemper shots, they're up to date. No worries. Affects neither you nor your dog.
How about cats, though? Can't cats get distemper too?
Another good question. Cats do get distemper. They get a different type of distemper. I believe it even has a different name to it. I'm not even uncertain that isn't associated with some form of that feline leukemia.
Right.
But I'm not a big. I don't know a lot about cats. I do want to let you know that, so you know I'm not going to speculate on that because I don't work with any wild cats. I used to work with bobcats in Texas, and we had a cougar once that was all scratched up, or had scratched up an aoudad, a Barbary goat. But yeah, I've seen my share. Somebody posted the other day about a moose. crossing the road. And he said, I'd hate to have to put that in the back of my truck and bring him to the vet, which I had to send him a picture of a little moose that my wife and I came across trying to jump, couldn't get over the guardrail. This was in Idaho on the Teton Pass, going from Idaho to Wyoming. And the little baby moose couldn't get over the guardrail, and the mama was going bananas trying to get her to cross the road. So all the traffic stopped, and we were able to coach the little one across the street. It was really cool. It's really cool. So, yeah, I've
glad Mama didn't charge you.
No, well, we wouldn't have done that had we not had the rest of the people who had pulled over and stopped. They took the attention, kept the attention of Mama. And it was funny because we ended up scooting her under the guardrail, and then she was in the road. But then we had to get her over the other guardrail. And that's why it wasn't just a simple task. But it worked. It worked out. There was no issues. We were fortunate. Could have been very dangerous. Absolutely. I'm going to show you another. I'm going to show you another couple of my little critters that I'm fixing to. We're going to release maybe tomorrow. I really want to get them back. Want to get them out in the wild. I really enjoyed raising these guys. I took them out of a wall after Mama got hit. So there was no other thing to do but to take these animals in. Let me show you. Hey, sweetie pie, come here. Come see me. Come see. Can you all see her?
Yeah. She's pretty grown.
Squirrel, like I said, she's very grown. She's very big, and she's almost ready. Hold on, I'm gonna get you a better picture. She's ready. She's ready to go. She's been chomping at the bit to get outside. And she actually jumped on my shoulder the other day and ran down my leg, and she ran around the yard for 20 minutes. And then she wasn't ready. She wanted to come back in. It's okay, sweetie pie. It's okay. Show everybody the big cherry you're eating. Oh, look at me. I got a big old cherry. It's almost the size of my head. She loves cherries.
How old do they have to be able to be on their own?
Well, squirrels aren't too bad. I think we're at, geez, now I want to say we're at like 26 weeks.
26. That's
with
a
these
long
guys.
time. It's a long time.
Long time. That's why it's going to be so sad to see them go. Actually, we don't really put a lot of impact on them. I can't help it sometimes, but they know that when they get out into the wild, their instinct's going to take over. And because there's two of them, they're very unlikely they're going to turn into what Scooter does. Scooter was by himself. He played with a stuffed animal the whole time he was being raised, between me and the stuffed animal. So, that makes a difference. That makes a difference when they're getting ready for release. Come here, you. Come here, you. They're the cutest things, and they're quite easy to rehab. We bottle fed them for the longest time. They've only been weaned now for 5 weeks, maybe. Look, time has flown because it's been very busy these past couple weeks, past month, really.
Is it like every 6 hours, or how, when you're bottle feeding them? How often?
I wish every 6 hours. It was every 2. It started every 2 hours, and then it went to 4 for a long time, and then it wasn't at 6 for too long. And again, we we introduce the right stuff to them. Like we get what they call rodent block. It's just a bunch of nuts and the proper food and nutrition's compressed into a little block. And we give them the right things. You know, we just started giving them peanuts probably this past week. Not really a great thing for squirrels. People don't really know that, but legumes are not true nuts. And they really hold no nutritional value for the squirrel, like hard nuts do. Plus, the squirrel's teeth are constantly growing. Their whole life, their teeth continue to grow. And if they don't have hard shell nuts to help file their teeth on, they work on their teeth literally an hour a day. They have to, by no choice. Sick, lame, or not. If they don't do it, they'll get a malocclusion. The tooth will grow right up into the roof or out the bottom of their chin. And I've seen it. These animals can be helped if you get them in time. They usually create a very nasty abscess.
So what is the best nut?
And that could be more difficult.
What's the best nut for them?
Well, for them is to eat the nuts that is natural, and that would be acorns or walnuts. Walnuts are the best nut for them. Yeah, because it doesn't take them long to open it. It's not that that they grind on it. They hit the seam and they know how to pop it, but it is enough to chip the excess part of their tooth off, and then they'll file the rest down on a hard branch, like some apple wood or some hardwood, whatever type of hardwood they can manage. So yeah, squirrels are very, very interesting, and I know a lot of people, they tend to just look at them as flying rodents. I've heard them called a lot, but really, without squirrels, we wouldn't have the forests we have. They wouldn't be so lush and dense, and they wouldn't regrow after fires and after logging. That's all the squirrel. Okay, I mean, of course, humans do areas that they reseed, but I mean, that just happened over the past couple decades. We squirrels have been doing it for centuries and millenniums and whatever, and they've done quite a good job. And that's why they're important. They're
smart. They're smart.
They're very smart. They're very, very smart. Absolutely. Then, of course, I have my Athena, my owl. Let me put on my glove, and I'll get a better look at that. And if you have any questions, or animal out here, I have. I'm trying to get these opossums out from underneath the guy's house that are annoying their dog. The dog hears them through the floor. Again, things work out backwards. Sometimes I caught Mama first. Sometimes I'll release Mama and let her do business and let me catch the babies first. But this is kind of another situation where we don't have the time we would normally want. So they are animal-friendly folks, and I'm trying to accommodate them as much as they're being patient with me. So we're trapping these opossums, and last night I'm watching them on camera, and I see one in my trap. All I see is eyes. I don't physically see him. And he was there for hours, and I'm like, well, I'll get him in the morning. It's a nice night. Got there this morning, trap wasn't even closed. Why? Well, turns out these opossums are very small babies. They're probably the size of my fist with a tail, and they're not even heavy enough to trip the plate in the trap. So they're walking all over my trip plate, just walking in and out, eating food. I'm feeding them. They're eating, which is all good. But I've also then they're actually able to survive on their own. I just want to get them out of the house safe. And they're really giving me a little bit of a, they're playing fun with me. They're playing with me.
Now,
anyway,
Remember we
let
went
me
to
get,
that
go ahead. Anybody
I
has a
had an
question?
opossum, and
Mhm.
I liked him. I mean, I understand that they do good too.
Oh,
But I've heard
incredible.
they're transient. So I only saw him a couple of times, and then he must have moved away. He was sort of under one of the
Well,
back house.
Well, usually that's not the case. Usually they tend to like to hang around. So there must have been a reason. There must have been another reason why it didn't want to stick around.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, and it wouldn't have been your fault. I'm saying it would be perhaps the food supply that it was there getting on a normal basis. He depleted.
What do
And
they
if that was
eat?
mice, well, opossums are probably the most omnivorous animal around. They eat literally everything, except a goat, I would presume, although that's not a wild
But
animal.
they like mice? They like mice?
They
'Cause
love mice. They
that's what
love
I need.
mice. Oh, they love mice. But you know what they love more than mice? And it's true, is ticks. They have an incredible appetite for ticks.
I
And they
really
are
wanted my opossum to stick
voracious.
around.
Well, let me tell you, I've got a list of people, and when I catch them, they always have a home because I have a list of people
I'll tell you where I
want
live.
them. I'll put you on the list.
Are you
Absolutely.
in Naupee? Where are you?
No, I'm actually in East Hampton, but again, I cover a large area.
No, I know. I'm in East Hampton too, but I didn't know if
sure.
you're in Springs or not.
Oh no, I'm actually not too far from the railroad station. I'm not in the village, but I tell you, I could literally throw a stone into the village.
Okay, I'm on Town Lane, so.
On Town Lane?
Yeah, but the East Hampton end, not the.
Yes.
The,
Yes. Yeah. I know where you're at. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
So anyway, this is Athena, and Athena is an eastern screech owl, and she just bit my finger, and she's very gentle with me, even when she nibbles on me like that. Athena ran into a car, as I was explaining earlier, which is a very common thing for screech owls. They are strictly nocturnal. They hunt by roosting in a high tree and dropping down on its prey. They also like to catch birds and insects in the air while flying. And because of this, they tend to see quite clearly the insects that are illuminated by our headlights at night. Okay, when we get late into the summer season and we get those large accumulations of insects in the air, that's when these guys get the worst. They tend to swoop down into that light. They don't know what a car is until it hits them. And because of their size and because they're mostly feathers, they will a lot of times survive, but with debilitating injuries. Athena is fully capable of flying. She didn't break her wings. Normally they break their head or their neck. This is a skull of a screech owl, the same size as Athena, and it's very fragile. I mean, I could squeeze it with my hand. Hold on a second. I got to give Scooter a nut. She doesn't realize I'm holding a bird of prey in my other hand. She's very, very brave, blind or not. Of course, I have her on a leash, so I'm not concerned. But if she goes anyway, natural enemies in the wild, folks. So in this case, Athena was fortunate. She didn't break her neck or her head, although she did lose an eye. And the other eye had partial vision, but it dissolved, and she now has absolutely no vision. And because of that, flying is irrelevant, because, and if flying's irrelevant, hunting is not an option. And if it doesn't hunt, it can't eat. So this animal was, for another lack of a proper term that I can't think of off the top of my head, was on death row. It would have to be euthanized for the benefit of its quality of life. I mean, it's sad, but it's what needed to be done. But there was one opt, and that was somebody who was licensed to possess wildlife, which takes both a federal and a state license, and that would be me. And I actually went and applied for it for her. She does not cohabitate with other Screech Owls, which is uncommon because they normally will be able to be rehabbed together and be able to be put in the same cages. But after 2 attempts and 2 dead owls later, we found out that this little critter was a little murderous, for lack of a better term. And it probably has a lot to do with her blindness. If she can't see, everything except who handles her every day, i.e. me, is a threat to her. She doesn't know. She doesn't know what's coming up behind her and what's making noise and walking around. So, I mean, you think of it that way, you can understand, but murder's a little much, but that's what nature has, those little surprises that tend to.
Good evening. Sorry I missed the beginning of it. My children heard on this Zoom that you can sign up to get a pet owl. Is that the, is that?
Oh, no.
Okay.
No.
I thought there might be
It's illegal in New York State and many other states to possess a wild animal.
Okay. Oh.
Okay. That's all right. We got her.
So thank you for clarifying.
Oh, absolutely. And we wouldn't want to, because again, they're wild animals, and many of them, unless they are debilitated through an injury or an illness and cannot be released into the wild, even those animals are very slow to become domesticated, if at all. And any level would be very minimal. Athena is showing a high level of tolerance to me. Again, her accident occurred when she was a fledgling. So she doesn't know as an adult what normal is. This is normal. And she's also been an ambassador for wildlife and has been used in many educational platforms, which has given her the calmness and really good nature. I mean, the kids, normally when I bring them to schools, they can stroke her, they can pet her. She's quite tolerant and loves to educate and teach. She loves to teach, and young and old. She's it's what she's here to do. That's her mission in her life now.
And how did the 2 of you get together?
I'm sorry?
How did the 2 of you get together?
Well, again, that was funny. Again, what happened is she had killed 2 other animals that she had been cohabitating with, and they didn't have the space for her, quite frankly. So they were eager to find her a new home where she could live by herself. And I was quick to jump on the opportunity. I mean, anybody that doesn't know me know that I've been educating in the schools and adults through nature clubs and such for many years now, without live animals. I use slide. I'm a photographer as well and a filmmaker, so I've used my that approach to educate, as well as down to the preschoolers. I have a whole army of stuffed animals that are very realistic, and I still love using them because the kids can hold them and they connect as if they're live animals in the most safest situation. And it gives them the opportunity to learn and know that these animals deserve the same love and compassion as we would treat our fellow man. And when we teach that to a child at an early age, well, you know what the results are.
So someone found her along the street then, I assume.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
that's what I
Found her right
wanted to
on the
know
side of the road. Yep.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
You know, another local gentleman, I don't know if any of you know, Ricky King, also found one on the side of the road not too long ago, near you, Sherry, by well, it wasn't on Bluff Road, but it was on Indian Wells, right at the little hut there, the parking hut. And he brought it to me, and it was in bad shape, we thought. Had some blood on its wing, and we didn't move it. We strapped it up, kept it still, brought it to the vet the next day. They cleared it, brought it over to, nothing broken, brought it over to Evelyn and Alexander. They rehabbed it, called me when it was better, gave it back to me, brought it back to the same place it was found, just in case there was family around, which is important. And we took it out of the box, and I had her by the feet, which is a normal way to hold her because that's the most dangerous part on a bird of prey is the talons. So I grabbed her by the feet, and I'm holding her, and I let her go, and she didn't go anywhere. She sat on my hand, and she looked around, and she looked to the sky as if, wow, I've got all this opportunity in front of me. Where do I start again? And it just spread its wings real slow, opened them up, and then within a blink, she flew away. And again, I was fortunate somebody was filming that. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's online. It's quite beautiful. Actually, it's on my website. So when you go on the website, WROEH.org, that stands for Wildlife Rescue of East Hampton. And if you go on the website, you'll see a lot of the work that we do with our local wildlife.
Would she
as well as some of our educational programs. I'm sorry.
Would she normally be asleep now?
She sure would. Absolutely.
Yeah, it was.
Yep. Now she doesn't know. But again, she's trained this way. I did wake her up to come out here. She doesn't mind it. Plus, she's got a beautiful cage, which in the proper term is called a mew, M-E-W, and that's an owl aviary. And she has a wonderful mew, and it's quite large for her to hop about, jump about, chew on things that are not my thumb. She has a few toys in there, and I give her a nice bath. She has a glass pie plate full of water, and that's got to be her absolute favorite activity. She takes a swim every night during the warm months. After she eats, she jumps in the pool, stands there a bit, and then just ruffles her feathers and makes a mess. And it's the most happiest thing you'll ever see. She just gets soaked and loves it. You just know she's enjoying herself. And she hops out, she shakes it all off, dry as a feather, and back in business. You want to know something interesting about owls? Their eyes are so big that they can't turn them in the sockets. And that's why they rotate their heads the way they are. Look at this skull again. Look at the where the eyes go. Look how large that opening is. That's all for the eye. And because they're fixed like that, the eyes can't move in the sockets. They're straight. And that's why an owl moves its head. And do you know how much and how many degrees an owl can actually move its head? Most people think it's 360, but that's not possible. Do we know? Does anybody have a guess? No guesses? Take a guess.
Just don't know my
Okay.
degrees.
Okay, well, there's 360 degrees is a full circle.
180?
And no, that would be, no, not 180. It's 270 degrees.
You got it right. My husband got
Okay?
it. Yes,
That's,
Michelle got it.
I know that's an odd number to throw at you, but that's the number. So if anybody ever says to you, did you know an owl could turn its head all the way around? You say, no, actually, it's 270 degrees. Do, 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 do.
The kids must love that.
The kids love the owls. The owls are special. There's so much to talk about with owls. You know, their little ear tufts that they have on their head. Athena has them. She's got them pulled back now. They're called ear tufts, but they're not actually ears at all. In fact, ow, Athena, why are you doing that? That hurts, little girl. They're actually just feathers, and we really don't know what the reason is for them. We don't even have any ideas. Maybe it's a social thing. Maybe it deflects or absorbs sound that comes in, but really the ears aren't even located up there. The ears are located on the side of the head, just like ours are. They're just holes in the side of the head covered by feathers. And do you know these animals, although they eat their prey whole, they eat the animal entirely in one piece, the whole mouse. They can't digest it all. So you may know that the portions of these animals that they can't digest, which is usually the fur and the bones, okay? They can't digest, so they compress them in their stomach and they bring them back up to around their crop area. And when they get the right reflexes in their throat, out comes a pellet, is what they're called. And quite frankly, the size of Athena's pellet would be the size of this hazelnut right here. And she coughs one up once a day. And I know that a lot of schools, or they used to do it. I've actually talked to some kids who say they still do it. They find them in the woods, and you heat them up, and that kind of sterilizes them. You wrap them in foil, and then you put them in the microwave. You put them in the oven for a short period of time to dry them out, or dry them in the sun. And then the kids take them and they dissect them. And then you take all the bones out and you try to reconstruct the animal that was eaten, which in most cases, almost always, is a mouse. However, they do eat shrews and voles and moles and birds and toads and snakes. So they have a large appetite. Now, the great horned owl will eat her. So that's another one of nature's bummers.
Songbirds.
Yeah, they do tend to eat their share of songbirds. However, Athena is on a strict mouse diet. They are humanely euthanized mice that are raised in a laboratory and then humanely euthanized. Look, it's the only way it can be done. These animals, this is what they eat, and there's no substitute. So, look, I like mice too, but I don't like them in my house. I don't like them in your house. But I certainly would never use poison to get rid of mice, because if you poison a mouse and it goes running outside choking on poison, and my little girl, who, if she could see, was able to catch that mouse, then she would be poisoned. And that applies to cats and any other animal that is going to eat that mouse who has been poisoned with a rodenticide. So please, folks, please, I beg you, stop using mouse poison.
What is
If
an
you,
alternative?
there are alternatives. Look, even if you don't have the time to set up some humane mouse traps, which are very effective, they work great. You just got to check them daily and let the buggers go. Okay? Now, the first line of defense against mice is find out how they're getting in the house along your foundation. Find out where they're coming in and end it. Otherwise, you're paying a company to come in and feed your mice. Okay? Now, it might kill, one block of poison might kill 10 mice, but you're going to draw in 30. You're never going to win. Okay? So take.
Oh. Looks like we lost him.
Yeah, we lost him.
Okay.
So, will he go back in his house?
He does have his backup computer on, so maybe he's walking in there. If not, does anyone have any questions for any other? It sounds like we have such a knowledgeable group. Perhaps folks in the audience would be able. Oh, here he is. Sorry, he's back.
I don't know what happened.
There you are.
I'm sorry.
You're there.
I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. The phone rang, so I that could have been it, but I apologize. Anyway, stop with the mouse poison. If you can't do it with humane traps, there's a company. Look, I'm not. I don't want to kill anything, but I'm just saying the company out there, Arrow, doesn't use poison. They use the old Victor snap traps.
Yeah, they're the best way.
It's humane on the level of humane. It's humane. It's quick. It's painless.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, okay. I think I just turned on my sound. I don't think I had sound before. But anyway, another terrible way of killing the mice is to get those little things of glue. And they get stuck in the glue.
Terrible.
Terrible. The mouse is alive and looking around and he can't.
Oh, don't talk about
That's
it.
horrible.
I hate it.
No, that is literally the most barbaric way to trap any animal.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they're even legal to have, because I tell you, you get that on the face of a child, or a puppy, or a kitten. No, it's over. And I don't know why it's legal to buy that crap, but until we starting to smarten up a little bit that way, I have a fear that people are still going to continue to use them. So look, all we can do is say no, don't. You can beg people, and that's what I'll do. I'll beg you all, not you, everybody. I have no problem doing it because it's that important. Glue boards, rodenticides, don't need them. And lethal traps as well.
Are you capable of finding the places that they come in? Because the person I called for the bats, I think they sealed up as much as they could, and I think that helped with the mice, obviously. But I didn't know, who you called to get sealed up.
Well, look, it all depends on who comes to your house. Okay.
Yeah.
How serious does this person take their work? Are they just there to collect a paycheck, or are they there to help people? I can't be everywhere, obviously. So but I am available by phone. And even though I don't do rodent control for the reason that we've been discussing. Even though I don't do it, I can tell you, and I can talk to you about ways to eliminate the issue, the nuisance. Also, I do wildlife inspection constantly, and I come and I look at a home and I give you the whole enchilada about all wildlife, or what you need to do to make your house wildlife friendly. Meaning, you want wildlife to come visit, you just don't want them to breach your living space. which really they have a right to do, but as humans, we need them not to. Okay. You know, I can help you. Just call me. And here's y'all. I don't know how you're writing down this information, but if you have a pen and paper, I'll mention the numbers again. But I'm also going to give you my personal cell number because that's my business number, and that can also be utilized as a question and answer phone. No charge to answer questions. It's ridiculous. I'll answer anything. And I tell you, no question is silly. I've heard people say that a million times. Oh, this is a silly question. And it may be the easiest question to answer, and I may have answered it 150,000 times, but the last thing that question is silly. And I tell you, I want to hear it 150,001 times. Because if that's what it takes to get that information out, then it's necessary.
So,
And
Dell,
what was the number?
Oh, thank you. I just had to get off my soapbox for a minute. Sorry. It's 631-377-6555.
Thank you.
Okay. And in most cases, you'll leave a message because I get a lot of calls from you know, salespeople just like everyone else, and so I screen everything. So when I hear your message, I call you right back.
Okay.
Immediately.
Thank you.
do
Okay.
deer whistles work?
I'm sorry.
Do deer whistles work?
For the deer whistles for the front of your car
Yes.
that you adhese on the car,
Yes.
I believe in them. I absolutely believe in them. Yeah, sure. If they're placed on the car properly and they make the whistle effect as you're driving down the road, it is absolutely a sound that the deer can hear, and it alerts them. Now, whether or not it keeps them from running in the road, it probably does. But what it doesn't do is make them freak out and start fleeing into the road. So if anything, it's going to make them stay still and not move. And they're going to wait till that sound goes away, and then they'll continue on. So that's I believe in them quite a bit. And you can get them on, I don't know where you can get them other than online. I'm sure you can get them locally, but I got a whole bunch online.
You can get them at the gas station in Montauk.
Oh, really?
Oh, thanks.
And he
What
knows
a smart,
how to,
Martell's.
he knows
Oh,
how
yeah,
to
well,
do them.
yeah.
He'll do them correctly.
Yes, he will. Yes, he will.
Oh, great.
He knows his stuff, and he sure knows Montauk, so he knows the deer issues there.
Is
And,
there only one station there? I usually don't go there.
No. There's other stations, but Martell's is probably the only, because they have that gift store inside the shop, and they.
Oh,
if you
it's
haven't been in there,
Martell's.
you should go. If you haven't been in there, go in there. It's really a neat little shop because you'll see stuff in there that you would have seen had you walked into that shop in 1968. Okay, and it's such a really neat, nostalgic trip back when I go in there. It's quite interesting. I don't mean old and decrepit stuff. It's all been very well maintained and taken care of. But the shop is set up like a shop, like the old Five and Dime in East Hampton.
Yeah.
I don't know if any of you remember. If I don't know who I'm talking with, but
There's
boy,
one in Sag Harbor.
Like Sag
yeah,
Harbor,
that's still pretty much the same. But the one in East Hampton was like, you walked in there, it was wall to wall, everything. It was really cool. As a kid, it was mostly toys, but yeah, those days. You don't find too many of those shops anymore.
Yeah.
No.
Not unless Calvin Klein comes out with a line of souvenir, novelty, vintage, whatever.
God help us. Can I ask about Fox?
Sure.
Have you had any dealings with Fox?
With who?
Fox.
Yes,
Fox.
yeah, I deal with the foxes.
The
Yeah.
mange thing and the cycle, cycle of living and dying and everything out here.
You know, I want to tell you something in her mood. So just give me one second here. I hear an awful lot about that, about how this fox goes in cycles, and how when the fox disappears, the rabbits come back,
And the quail.
and I hear this constantly, and the quail. I don't really subscribe to that.
He's too far from his.
Dell, we're having a tough time hearing you.
Yeah,
Losing the sound.
we're frozen.
You went far away.
I deal with foxes. Me? Okay. Hold on. I'm coming back. Are we better?
Yes.
Are we okay? Okay. What was I talking about? I said I didn't subscribe. Oh, the foxes. Foxes.
And about the cycle.
So I see the foxes every year, and I don't see any difference up or down. I see mange every year. I treat them for mange every year. I've spent many years trying to figure out how to mass treat foxes in the wild without having to bring them in, because the first time I did it, I had to trap the mama and the cubs and bring them to Evelyn Alexander and then have them treated for mange and then released again. Okay. Now I found a way to treat them in the wild, but it takes me having to physically see each fox eat the medicine-laden bait, which is a hard-boiled egg. Not an easy thing, but I'm working on making it easier. And if I can figure this out, I'm going to be able to treat a lot more foxes. Now, back to your question. Because I see these foxes every year with no decrease or increase of population, I don't see this cycle that everyone's talking about. Because on the same hand, I'm dealing with rabbits every year, and I'm seeing no decrease or increase of them as well. What I don't see and deal with on a large basis are quails and pheasants. So whether their populations are fluctuating because of the foxes, I really don't think that's the case.
No.
When I go to these dens, if anybody is familiar with foxes, you'll know that they tend to leave remnants of their kill outside the den hole to get a little more stagnant. They prefer a little bit rotted flesh rather than the fresh, or they don't mind the rotted flesh afterwards. So, but from what I see around these den holes, I see cottontail rabbits. I see deer legs. Usually they're pulled off the railroad tracks from deer that are hit by trains. But they manage to get them. A lot of geese, a lot of fish. And not too many birds except for ducks and geese, which are birds that spend a lot of time on land. So that's why they're able to capture them. These are the remnants I'm finding around. No quails, no pheasants. I've never seen them. So I'm not seeing that fluctuation cycle in either the foxes or the rabbits. Yet I hear the rumors every year.
Well, I was speaking more just about the fox because I get them and they're walking across my patio, and then I see them come back with the mange where they're just on their last legs rolling around my, trying to get rid of it. And I'm so helpless. It's not an animal I can catch, and it's some that goes by and, tries to catch cats or whatever. But That's the cycle I'm talking about, because rabbits have been long gone from my yard. They don't last. The hawks get them if they come. And also pheasants. I used to have families of pheasants and quail every year. I haven't seen them for 20 years or more.
Yeah.
So it isn't that, it's the fox that worry me. They seem to come back in numbers, and they come in my yard. I have a very animal friendly yard, 22 deer on my 1 acre. And, but I wonder, but I can't, I feel so helpless when I see a fox with mange, and I wondered what I could do.
Well, again, we can treat the mange if we can get the meds to the animal. Meanwhile, the mange isn't always, and in most cases, is not a death sentence to these animals.
Really?
Okay, it makes it very difficult for them. The young are the ones that are affected the most, because it will affect their eyesight. They can become blind from it, and of course that's a death sentence for a fox. So that's where you run into these issues. But a male, a large adult fox, male or female, will have significant skin damage due to dryness and hair loss. But if the animal can get through the first freeze, when the actual mite is eliminated, they usually can survive the process of the mange. You know, I've seen a lot of these animals look like heck and come back. Now, it's tough. It's tough. The ticks, on the other hand, are a much bigger threat to the fox. They attach themselves to their lips and their nasal and their eyelids, because it's the only part of them that are skin. And when they do this in abundance, and you know how ticks operate, that's how they do it, it can debilitate a fox quite easily. Their eyes swell up and they can't see. And going back to Athena, or any animal, when you lose your eyesight, you lose your ability to hunt and feed yourself. So the ticks can cause that. And I've had a lot of calls, maybe some of you are familiar with riding up on a road and seeing a fox in the middle of the road looking very sick, rubbing its face on the road. And what it's doing is just trying to rub these ticks off on the asphalt of a road that is hard enough to abrase them off their faces. It's the most sad and sorrowful thing to see. But at that point, they can't escape you. And I'm usually able to corral them. And very rarely are the fine folks over at Evelyn Alexander not able to bring these foxes back to health, regardless of the severity of the mange. Once they're in their hands, catching them when they're debilitated like that isn't as difficult as you would think. Okay, and for those of you who don't know, and interestingly enough, there's 2 animals that I have a list of people who want them, and that's the opossum, and the other is the fox. If you have foxes in your yard and you're not, look, I've never heard of a fox locally here grabbing somebody's cat, let alone their dog. Certainly they're capable of it, but it's not common because there's so much available food that they tend to prefer, and it's easier for them to contend with, and that's rodents. And for that reason, I have a list of people who would love to have me drop foxes off at their locations to manage rodent control. And they do. They do. Period. Get a fox on your property, you don't have mice.
But they're going to eat squirrels as well, since they like rodents?
You betcha. There's no limit. There's no, yeah. But, you know, I'm talking about larger properties where animals are going to have the ability to find safe locations, just like they are in the wild. But certainly I wouldn't drop any animal off on a 1 or 2 acre property and for the effect of doing some efficient pest control. That wouldn't work. A possum, maybe it wouldn't really be that much of a waste of time. However, I'd be very surprised if that possum stuck around without going out and exploring its new location and finding its own prime spot. Heck, it might go around town and come back to your place because yours is the most accommodating. But I doubt that they would just be set somewhere and call that home. Now, for large properties, absolutely. You can drop these animals there, and if they can sustain that environment the way they would in the wild, they'll absolutely stay there. And they will manage your pest problem or whatever the case would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna have to sign off because I have another commitment. I just wanted to say how much I've enjoyed listening to you, and hope to do this again.
Oh,
Okay.
anytime. And thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Have a good night.
You too.
I have a quick question if there's time.
Please.
It's a ordinary sort of question, but not a silly question.
No silly questions.
Ticks. If you live in the dunes, as we do, there are ticks everywhere, and we're always taking them off ourselves. What about spraying? If your property is really very difficult to walk around without getting ticks jumping on you. I mean, how does bee spraying affect birds and other?
It affects them. It affects them quite a bit. Not to mention all the pollinators, which starts really with bats and works its way down to bumblebees with butterflies in between. But certainly it affects birds. It'll kill birds. There's no long and short of it. It's a rough line. It's a rough line to contend with. There's a lot of organic sprays out there, but I got to be honest with you, I've never had to use either or. So I really don't want to tell you that, oh, the organic sprays are so much better. Maybe they are, and I sure would hope they are. But quite frankly, I've never used either. So I'm not gonna be able to tell you what the best advice on that would be.
Thank you.
For anyone who has not seen Dell's very beautiful and very educational video on the red fox, I suggest that you don't miss it. There's a lot of information and incredible beauty, and it's also a testament to your patience and your perseverance and things that nobody talks about. You know, they talk about your passion, but there's a great deal of skill and tenacity in what you do. And I hope that we'll become better caretakers because of your example.
Well, I hope so. I certainly know that everyone has the ability to have patience and show compassion. And I got to tell you, folks, you know, under other circumstances, you know, maybe I'd be a little more understanding between human and animal impact, how they impact each other. But out here, we've really pushed the limits. We've practically eliminated all the vital habitat that all these animals need, not just Scooter here, but our deer. And you know, we can blame the animals only so long, but really it's up to us to manage these situations better. And quite frankly, I mean, we've been talking about the deer issue and the tick issue for quite a while now. Yet what is actually being done? What is being done? Nothing. Everything is the same. I do want to say, when I say nothing is being done, and one might say, Well, we did the sterilization thing, and we wanted to cull them, but we didn't have that opportunity. Look, folks, death is not the solution to, is not the answer to any solution, period. Death is, that's it. It's over. And I don't think we as humans need to get to a point where we have to eliminate another living thing simply to make our life a little more better in our quality of life. Just let's eliminate the deer so that I don't have to worry about them eating my bushes or eating my potted plants or running in front of me when I'm in a rush to get to my yoga class. You know, and I'm joking a little bit. I'm being a little loose that way. But I got to say, okay, we impact these animals a lot, and we're really doing nothing to reverse it. Every year, more and more houses are built, which means less and less habitat is available for these animals. So every new house you see, you can count that a lot of animals had just been made homeless and now have to go find another home in locations that we're running out of. So that alone should make folks think and have a little bit more compassion for what these animals are going through. Look, nobody wants to have to hire a roofer and spend a lot of money because a raccoon popped a hole in the roof and had babies in your attic. You know, nobody wants that to happen to them. But
looks like
it happens for an animal, right? You've just constructed a better looking tree and more accommodating tree. It's just that, you know, they want to share it with you. We don't want that to happen. It's not fair to you, and it's not fair to our wildlife. But we don't want to kill them to solve this problem. You'll never do it. You'll never kill an entire population of squirrels. So that's not the way to do it. The way to do it is to have me come over and go around your house and show you all the ways you can keep these animals from finding your house accommodating. And once you can make your house non-accommodating for them, they will go find a more accommodating location, and usually one that's more suited for their species. Or they'll go to your neighbor's house, which I hate to say, but it's true. You know, hey, call me. You know, if you live locally in East Hampton, I don't even charge for that. We'll go around your house, we'll take a look, and we'll give you an idea of what you need to do so you don't have to call a trapper and you don't have to worry about hurting these animals. You learn to live with each other. It's very possible, folks. It's quite possible. You just need somebody to who knows a little bit about the animals to show you and walk you through it. And I'd be happy to do it. That's what I'm here for. That's what I want to do. And my squirrel is jumping all over everything.
Well, thank you, Dell. That was really, really, really just so fantastic. And, you know, you're such an excellent advocate, author, teacher. And we're just so lucky that you took your time today to show us all of your new friends and gave us such great advice about how we can live better with our environment.
It was my pleasure. I want to show you guys something right now. I'm going to show you my St. Francis statue sitting out there, watching over the squirrels. See the rabbit sitting next to it. The cardinal was just sitting on him. That's our saint protecting all our beautiful animals. And this is a very animal friendly place. And I got to tell you, I've never, and I swear to you, I've never had an animal. I've got 20 squirrels in my yard. I have never had an animal breach this house. Never even tried. I mean, they certainly can get on the roof. They love to. They go on there and they look around. They have never tried to eat their way through because I've offered them all the trees around me. I've got a couple squirrel houses I've put up. I've made the places I don't want them less accommodating. And now we live in harmony together. And I've shown you it. I've shown it to you. So I haven't just told you that, I showed it to you. And it's quite possible for this to happen for all of you as well. And it's a beautiful connection. It's a beautiful thing to have a bond with nature. It's very positive. And it's what we need nowadays. We need more positivity in the world. And you're most welcome. And I thank you all for for asking me to do this. I really enjoyed it. I'm born and raised in Amagansett, and the library means a heck of a lot to me. Spent a lot of time there as a kid, and I love what you do. I love everything the library stands for, and I love Amagansett. Folks, one more time, Wildlife Rescue of East Hampton. You dial 844 Save Wild, SAVWILD is 728-9453. And if you're reporting a wildlife emergency, you just press 0 once you connect, and then you'll be able to report the emergency. It'll tell you. My personal cell number, which you're always welcome to call with questions or advice or work or whatever you have, is 631-377-6555. And most importantly, the website, Wildlife Rescue of East Hampton, is WROEH.org. Please go on there. I do the website, and I put a lot of videos, a lot of educational shows that I've produced, all regarded around what our organization does, and that is leaving no animal to suffer or without help.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks. I appreciate it.
Thank you. It was wonderful.
It was great.
Thank you so much.
Stay healthy, stay safe, and let's try to have an awesome summer. Okay?
Good. Thank you.
Dell.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
This was great.
Okay. Bye-bye.